What's going on, everybody? My name is Pat. I'm the voice behind 99% of what you're going to hear on this channel. And today we are doing a recap of the 2024 Philadelphia Film Festival. I saw 13 movies at the festival. I would have saw more, but I had a trip in between to Vegas. You don't care about that part. But let's get into what was good, what was bad, and what was just eh. The first movie I'll talk about is actually the last movie I saw at the festival, Bird Eater. It's an Australian movie where a guy is getting married, he's having his bachelor party, and he decides, for whatever reason, to invite his soon-to-be wife and a couple of the guy's girlfriends on the bachelor party, but things kind of take a turn because of the tension and just things that pop up in their relationship. This movie was good. I mean, like, everything about this movie, how it was made was incredible. The score, the lighting, the acting. It had comedic elements at times. The only problem with Bird Eater was the plot line was very mediocre. Like at one point you just go, is this it? Like, is this what we have here? And the answer is yeah, pretty much. But it was really creatively done. I think the creators of this movie are definitely, on the rise, and they'll do some really good things. But this movie just lacked a plot for me. The next movie is the closing night movie of the festival, Blitz. This is the new Steve McQueen Apple movie about a kid who is relocated during World War II in London because of the bombings from the Germans, but he decides, I'm not really feeling that whole relocation thing. I want to hop off a train and I'm going to find my way back home. Incredibly mediocre. I said this in my review for it. I was looking forward to this movie. It's definitely one that Apple will be pushing for Oscar season, but I just did not care at all about any of the characters. Like, they failed, and well, Steve McQueen, I guess, and the writers failed to have me give a rat's ass about what happened to this kid, this family. I couldn't wait for this to be over. And this isn't giving anything away in the movie, but the very, very end, the last scene, you hear Saoirse Ronan's voice say, make a wish. And I said aloud for this fucking movie to be over because it was just so incredibly average. The next movie you can actually see right now because it's out. It's Conclave, the new Pope movie. Because, every 4 years we need a Pope movie. Stars Ralph Fiennes and Stanley Tucci, and Ralph Fiennes is in charge of the Conclave finding a new Pope. But the more he dives into the candidates, the more he realizes that they're not real suited to be the Pope. Like, they've all got skeletons in their closet. It's a really interesting look into something that we, as the general public, don't get often, which is, how does this thing actually happen? Now, this is a more dramatized version of that, but it's got tension out the ass, and it has you on the, I want to say your edge of your seat, but you're definitely sitting there invested. I was never bored with this movie. The acting is really, really strong, and this is one of my favorite movies at the festival. So if you get a chance to go see Conclave, whether you're Catholic or not, I think this movie is really, really strong. Next, we have a time travel movie from China. It's called Escape from the 21st Century, and really quick, what jumped out to me in this one, because this is the first movie I've ever seen from China that's not an action movie. I'm talking like they're all speaking Mandarin, you're reading subtitles the entire time. But what initially jumped out to me was all those parodies of like Chinese commercials and like the overacting and the clear green screen. And, and you're sitting there as an American going like, there's no way it's this hokey. No, at times it really is. But it's in such a warm tone that you're like, it's like comfort food in a way. You're sitting there watching it and you're just cracking up. But to get in the plot line of this movie, it's set in a world far, far away, not Star Wars though, where it basically looks like Earth. And these kids who are set in 1999 dive into a river full of toxic chemical waste, and they realize that they can time travel 20 years in the future to 2019, and they're able to see their future selves and what happened to their lives. Some of them want to change their lives, some of them don't. There's tension between the three friends in 1999 because of what happened in 2019. I really like this movie. Like, it was really, I knew nothing about this movie going in, and it's like a time travel movie on an acid trip. And it is definitely one that will keep you completely entertained. That's the whole point of movies. So if you get a chance to see Escape from the 21st Century, do it, because it was really, really entertaining. As a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I never thought I'd say this. Next up, we have The Knife, the new Nnamdi Asomugha movie. If you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, you might be thinking maybe he wrote this movie in his car. Just Google Nnamdi Asomugha in his car. You'll get the joke there. Not a very good one. But this movie is about a guy who wakes up in the middle of the night to a commotion going on in his house that he's renovating. And there's a strange woman in his house he's never seen before. He tries to disarm the situation and let her know, hey, you're in the wrong house. But things kind of escalate and ends up with the woman on the ground. And obviously he's got to call the cops. Nnamdi's wife in the movie realizes this isn't going to look good. You're a black man. She's a white woman. We have to do something. And the wife tampers with the scene. Melissa Leo comes in, the former Oscar winner, and she is the police detective that's in charge of trying to figure out exactly what happened in this case. This was a tense movie. It kind of reminded me a lot, and I said this in my review, of Fruitvale Station, but not nearly as tense as Fruitvale Station. Like the last 30 minutes of Fruitvale is incredible. But this movie was good, and I know I was joking in the beginning, but Nnamdi's actually a really good actor, and I think he did a really good job with his first foray into directing as well. But he wrote this, he directed it, and he stars in it, and it's a movie that I think will probably pop up on like a Hulu, and you'll sit there and go, don't I recognize this guy's face? And you'll start to watch it because you want to make fun of Nnamdi because of maybe his failed Eagles tenure, but then you'll end up watching and going like, no, he was good. Keeping up with the sports theme is the first documentary I saw at the fest, Lions of Mesopotamia, and this is really Iraq's version of The Miracle on Ice. It follows the Iraqi soccer team who went to the Asia Cup in 2007 and defied a lot of odds and ended up winning while their country was in war and while their country was in a civil war. But it really follows this Iraqi national team coming up from the junior ranks and then going into the professional ranks. But during the junior ranks, they were dealing with Americans invading their country, family members dying, bombings going on, and yet they still found a way to bring a country united through soccer. And this was a huge deal. And it was a story I didn't know anything about whatsoever. And I'm a huge sports fan. So I was really invested in this movie. I was really interested in it. It definitely shows a different side of Iraq and the Iraqi people, especially as an American. You see literally just one side of it. But it was cool to see these guys that were like counted out. And in a lot of ways, every match they went to, they were just looked down upon. And they went out there and, they ended up getting it done for their people and their country and how much it meant to them. And that's why I say it really reminded me a lot of the 1980 Miracle on Ice team. So if you get a chance to catch this documentary at some point, it's not on streaming now, but it will be soon. Definitely do it, because if you're a sports fan, it's a really interesting story, and I think it'd be perfect for like an ESPN Plus. Next, we have NickelBoys, and this is a movie that I think will have critics and Oscar people just falling over themselves to praise. It's based on a book about a juvenile delinquent home for boys in the 1960s down in Florida, where they mistreated a lot of the kids. And unfortunately, what they would do is, like, if they didn't like a kid, they would just kill him and then say, oh, hey, he ran away. Like, couldn't do anything about it. But this movie is shot in a unique way because it's literally from the point of view angle of one boy and then the point of view angle of another boy. And because of that, because of the subject matter, because of the way it was shot, because of the acting, and Daveed Diggs stars in it, because it was based on a book, like, the Oscars will be wanting so bad to push this movie. This movie fucking sucked. Like, it was so painful to get through. I was bored out of my mind watching this movie. It was one of those movies where you're sitting in the theater watching it going, what poor decisions in my life led me to being in this theater at this moment watching this movie? Like, what else could I have been doing? Staring at a wall, maybe. That would have been a better decision than watching what I'm watching right now. This movie is the hardest pass. And it was so incredibly, mind-blowingly boring that I cannot say this enough. If you want to waste 2 hours and 20 minutes, watch NickelBoys. But if you value your time, take my word for it. I took a hit, so you didn't have to. And for that alone, you should be letting the ads run. The next documentary I saw at the festival hit close to home with me. It's called No One Died, and it focuses on the WIP Wing Bowl. Now, essentially, Wing Bowl was just a sports radio promotion to see how many fat guys they could get into a room and see who could eat the most wings. But it was so much more than that, because this was a shit show. Like, this was debauchery. This was 18,000 people packed into an arena to see guys and girls demolish wings while you've got strippers on one side, I mean, accountants taking their clothes off, Snookies over here, fights in the stands, and more alcohol than you can imagine at 6 a.m. The reason why I say that this movie hit close to home with me is because I grew up in Philly listening to WIP. I tried to get in a wing bowl in 2005 to attend it, couldn't, got shut out. And then I grew up and ended up working for WIP's competition. So, like, I've literally been in the meetings before of trying to do a radio promotion, and I think it accurately portrayed just how much of like let's see if it works kind of industry it is, because legitimately a lot of times it's like, hey, what if we did this? All right, let's try it, screw it, and you don't really know what you're doing. I think this is a really good documentary to watch if you're from Philadelphia, because if you're from Philly, whether you like sports radio or not, everybody has a wing bowl story. Everybody knows somebody that either went to wing bowl, competed in wing bowl, got arrested at wing bowl. Like, everybody's got that. And a lot of the characters in this documentary you've at least heard of. Like, I grew up knowing about the legend of El Wingador, right? I remember when the Black Widow came in and defeated him. But if you're from Bozeman, Montana, I don't know how much you care about this. Like, I think if you're from Bozeman, you go, okay, it's a documentary about a radio stunt, and yeah, it was a little wild, but like, whatever. But if you're from Philly, this movie hits way different. And it hit way different for me, just from working in the industry. I will say, though, as an aside, because I would be mad at myself if I didn't, 95% of the media members that they cover in this documentary are complete jerk-offs. I just got to get that off my chest. Like, I'm sitting there watching it going like, yeah, this dude sucks, and oh yeah, like, that dude's a douchebag, but hey, that's my problem. That's not your problem. If you're from Philly, check out the documentary. Also, it was made by local Philly guys, so like, you should check it out for that reason alone. Next up, we have the opening night movie of the festival, September 5th. Where do I begin? I feel like I can go into this story because I started this thing off by saying it's a recap of the festival, and because I already put up a review for September 5th. But this movie was supposed to start at 8:15 at night. It didn't start until 9:40 at night. It got to the point where I'm sitting there going, is their goal to make us wait so long to see this movie that we actually watch it on September 5th? And that would have been cool if it wasn't for the fact that it was October. So we finally get in there, and at 9:20 at night, the head of the festival gets up there and he says, hey, everybody, sorry for the inconvenience. We're doing the final checks for the movie. We apologize. We're doing the final checks. And I'm like, huh? You want to run that by me again, Chief? The final checks? Like, how about you skip the checks for the German documentary on a Tuesday at noon that 3 people will go watch? But the opening night movie, I think you should probably do the checks for that. That one should be like lock, loaded, ready to go, Then he said, hey, 5 more minutes. I'm like, bro, I know what your 5 minutes is, and it's not my 5 minutes. Like, my 5 minutes is cemented in reality. Your 5 minutes is some interstellar time, like where it's going to take forever. Sure enough, 9:40 the movie goes on. Movie centers around the Munich Olympics. We already got that movie. It was legitimately called Munich, but this is from the point of view of ABC and how they handled it, because this was the first live broadcasted terroristic attack and terroristic event that took place, and they didn't know what they were doing. And I was excited for this movie. Like, I was really looking forward to it. I'm a big biopics fan. If it's based on a true story, like, I will be there. But halfway through, I realized this is not interesting. The Munich Olympics is interesting. The terroristic attacks that happened at the Munich Olympics, so that story is interesting. How ABC handles it is not interesting. Like, not remotely interesting. I was kind of bored. And then it did the lazy trope that every journalistic movie seems to do of, you know what, I got information, let's run with this story. No, you need 2 sources. No, we gotta be first, we're going with it. No, you need, and I'm like, oh my God, can we just stop this? It wasn't very good. Like, you don't need to see it. You just don't. It wasn't worth waiting an hour and 35 minutes for. Like, I'll tell you that right off the gate. Okay, let's get back to, like, good movies. So Torn was a really good movie that I knew nothing about. It's made by a 24-year-old who is definitely going places. He is a director and writer to watch for sure. This movie is about a woman who is a seamstress, and she's down on her luck. She's about to close the store that her mother ended up building up, She's kind of feeling like a failure a little bit. And then she comes across a crime scene of two guys who have been involved in a motorcycle accident, and there's a briefcase. And she has a question of like, what am I going to do? And she's got really like three options. She could drive away, she could call the cops, or she could take the briefcase and commit the perfect crime. And this movie, though, is really all about the decisions that she makes and the effects and the butterfly effects that take place because of the decisions she made. This movie was really interesting. Like, this woman uses needles and yarn like John Wick uses a pencil. So, like, that was a really creative look, and you're fascinated to see when she starts using the yarn, like, how is this going to go down? But it's just a really strong movie. It was missing something, like, it's really strong and it's really good movie, and it could have gotten a great, and I don't know what exactly it was missing, but it definitely, I came away going like, all right, was entertained, didn't waste my time, and man, like, that director is absolutely one where every couple months I'm gonna be looking at his IMDb. So watch So Torn. John Lithgow terrorizes the elderly in the role of Jenny Penn. John Lithgow plays a guy living in an old folks home, and for fun, he literally terrorizes the other people living in the old folks home while using a baby doll hand puppet that he calls Jenny Penn. Finally, somebody moves in there, a judge, and he's like, I'm not taking this anymore. This is ridiculous. Why isn't anyone standing up to this bully? And he tries, and he realizes that that is easier said than done because John Lithgow's character is, borderline psychotic. This movie was uncomfortable at times, but in a good way. You do sit there and you're like, yeah, why isn't anyone standing up to this guy? And then you get frustrated with the staff of the old folks home, but in their defense, like, you're not really thinking that anyone would be walking around at night terrorizing people. But it was a decent watch. It does have some comedic elements in it. Overall, though, it was an uncomfortable watch. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. But John Lithgow was really good in it. The Order is the new Jude Law movie based on a true story about an FBI agent sent to the Pacific Northwest, where his first mission is to take down a sect of the Aryan Brotherhood that has been radicalized. That sounds like an asinine statement. Like, if you're in the Aryan Brotherhood, you've been radicalized. No, these people have been radicalized from them. Like, members of the Aryan Brotherhood were like, we don't deal with those people. Like, we don't talk to that guy. And they're led by Thomas Holt. This is the strongest performance that we've seen from Thomas Holt. Like, he is really, really, really good in this movie. It's a good reminder that there are these like sickos out there that believe the crap that he was spewing in this film. But as I said in my review for it, it reminded me a lot of Hell or High Water. It is a slow burn, but the payoff is definitely there. It's one of my favorite movies I saw at the festival. Like, it is intense, and it is a really, really strong movie. And when it comes out in December, I can't suggest it enough. If you're into movies based on a true story, you're going to love this movie. Definitely check it out. As I said, one of my favorite, if not my favorite movie from the festival, The Order. And then last, but certainly not least, the feel-good movie of the festival, Unstoppable. It's the true story of Anthony Robles. He was a collegiate wrestler who had one leg, but defied a lot of odds and ended up having huge, huge success in the sport. This was a really, really good movie for many reasons. A lot of these sports underdog movies, they're pretty copy and paste, right? It's like, guy struggles, guy says he's not giving up, guy trains hard, guy wins, defies odds, everyone cheers, oh my God. And, in some ways, this movie's no different from those, but the one angle that was way different was, I would say 60% of this movie doesn't focus on Anthony's sports career. It focuses on his home life and how difficult that was. And it wasn't like he was born into poverty or anything like that, but he was dealing with a family where he really had to be the man of the family because his dad, for lack of a better word, was kind of a piece of shit and wasn't holding his own and wasn't really supportive. So you've got this kid who is walking on to a college wrestling team, trying to fulfill his dreams, and then he'd go home and he'd have to find a way to like pay bills and take care of his brothers and sisters and take care of his mom and try to be supportive for them. Because of that, this movie was different from a lot of those underdog sports movies. But then, of course, you've got the underdog nature of it. What I really appreciated about this movie, and I think I said in my review for it, was the laziest sports underdog trope ever is guy tries out for the team, and as he's about to leave, he closes his locker, and he overhears a couple of guys in the corner making fun of him, saying, I can't believe he tried out. What is wasting his time? Every underdog movie seems to do that. This movie didn't. Like, I actually found the director after the movie, and I was like, thank you for not doing that. And you literally just had a bunch of teammates that were like, no, like, we want this dude to succeed because he's a beast, but because like he's obviously working really hard and he's pulling his weight. So this movie is going to hit Amazon. It hits theaters and then Amazon, but it's definitely one that it's a story you probably are unfamiliar with because it's from collegiate wrestling, and we don't get a lot of movies from that. But it's definitely worth checking out, and you're not going to come away feeling bad, which that's always a positive. All right, there you have it. The Philadelphia Film Festival, 13 movies. The ones I really suggest you check out are Conclave, which you can see in theaters now. Escape from the 21st Century. I don't know when that's coming out, but when it does, check it out. Lions of Mesopotamia, the documentary on the Iraqi soccer team. So Torn, once again, don't know when that comes out, but when it does, check it out. The Order, that comes out in December, I think, December 1st or 6th. And then Unstoppable. All really strong movies. Those were the best that I've seen from the Philly. Now I can't talk. So hit thumbs down for that. Hit thumbs down because I all of a sudden kind of had a mini stroke there. But there you have it. That's the recap of the Philadelphia Film Festival. If you want to subscribe, that would be cool. If you want to like, that would be cool. Honestly, just please let some ads run. Like, that's the most important thing because I have bills to pay. And parking in Center City, Philadelphia is not cheap. And I got a ticket. The other night I got a $36 ticket. And it was frustrating because I ended up remembering that I had to pay for parking, and I paid for it at 8:08. And then when I got out and I saw the ticket was written at 8:04. Like, I was 4 minutes late. So yeah, I got to pay for that. So because of that, can you let some ads run, please? No, like, please.